Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your Uncle Jim. Welcome back to Kidney Stories 2. Tonight, I have something extra special for you. We're going to speak with Dr. Jenna Henderson about a topic near and dear to my heart, kidney disease and insomnia. From the NIH, quote, insomnia and poor self-perceived sleep are very common in patients with chronic kidney disease, or CKD. Poor sleep is associated with fatigue, sleepiness, impaired daytime functioning, impaired health-related quality of life, and increased morbidity and mortality. The truth is, people with chronic kidney disease often have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. According to the NIH, up to 80% of all dialysis patients have issues with their sleep. This is where Dr. Jenna Henderson comes in. Dr. Henderson is an authority on kidney disease issues, including kidney disease and insomnia. She wrote an article for The Hope back in November of 2019 entitled Insomnia and Kidney Disease. The links to that article are in the comments so you can read it for yourself. A little bit about Dr. Henderson. And by the way, all the information I'm going to give you now, there are links in the comments so that you can reach the doctor, call her, check out her FAQs, everything on her website. So about Dr. Henderson. In 1993, at the age of 22, Jenna Henderson was struck with a rare kidney disease, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, better known as FSGS, and I hope I semi-pronounced that right, Doc. She spent 3 years with mainstream medicine, trying desperately to save her kidneys. When she was told that dialysis was imminent, she looked to a variety of practitioners of alternative medicine. Although damage to her kidney was extensive at that point, and she could not undo the scarring of her kidneys, she was able to prolong the time before her dialysis was necessary by changing her diet and using natural supplements. While on dialysis, Jenna searched for the best of alternative medicine to give her more energy, protect her heart, and reverse bone loss. The information was not readily available, but she did her own research and found a protocol that worked. All around her in the dialysis clinic, patients were suffering and many of them passed away. Quote, what would it take to make information about alternative medical remedies more available to kidney patients, she thought, and how much more effective could I be if I had the proper educational background? As a result, Jenna enrolled in naturopathic medical school at the University of Bridgeport. People told her she would never make it. After all, she was being kept alive by a machine, and medical school was grueling. And as we all know, all doctors are overachievers. At least that's what they tell me in private. Jenna pressed on and took a leave of absence when her kidney transplant came through. But nonetheless, she graduated as president of her class in medical school and wrote a doctoral thesis about the safety of herbal medicine with transplanted organs. Today, Dr. Henderson consults with kidney patients all over the world. And I know this is true because they've been writing me all week, wanting to know when the doc's going to be on. So we're on now, guys. People seek her out as a world-class authority on safe alternative medicine for kidney disease. Dr. Henderson has been through the process firsthand and brings her passion for vibrant health to all kidneys consultants. Dr. Henderson consults with kidney patients and their families via telephone and Skype. Her educational background, the associations that she's a member of, her writings, all of that is contained in the comments. To contact Dr. Henderson's available by telephone or Skype through VC consultations Monday through Saturday. To schedule an appointment, please call 866-273-1653. That's 866-273-1653, or email info@holistickidney.com, or you can also leave a message using the contact form. Now, throughout the broadcast, there are banners that are going to stream across the bottom of the page that contain all of this information. So don't worry if you didn't get it the first time. It's also in the comments. So would you please give a warm welcome to Dr. Jenna Henderson. Doctor, how are you doing tonight?
Great. It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right, I'm excited. Let's get right into the questions. Tell us, did I state everything correctly about your background and your education, that sort of thing?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I'm from Connecticut. I went to the University of Bridgeport, and I got my Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine there. Um, and as a kidney patient, kidney patients really sometimes when they seek out alternative medicine, they really feel like they're caught between two worlds. World of nephrology and the world of alternative medicine are just so different. They just don't talk to each other very well. So that was really one of my goals, to really kind of bridge that gap. There's a lot of people in alternative medicine who don't really have a deep understanding of kidneys, especially when you get into things like transplantation and dialysis. And people in mainstream medicine just don't understand alternatives and botanical medicines. So, it's really important, I think, for kidneys to advocate for themselves, kidney patients to advocate for themselves and, take the best of both worlds. When I was in naturopathic school, they told me, you can't do a practice that's all kidney, you'll starve to death. But I'm like, I'm on the mindset, build it and they'll come. And I can't be the only one asking these questions. So so that's how it all kind of came together. And in the past couple of years, telemedicine has been much more acceptable, and people are more comfortable with it. So I've had patients, about 1 out of 4 of my patients are overseas. A lot of patients in Australia and South America, and so it's just been great, being able to connect with people who have going through the same challenges I have.
Okay, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and your current employment experience.
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Connecticut, lived in Virginia for a while. I was actually living in Virginia when I lost my kidneys. And I worked with another naturopath right after school, doing general practice, but kind of building my own practice as well that was renal specific. And so I stopped working there and just went to full-time working with kidney patients after that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I read that you are a kidney patient yourself. Can you please discuss with us your experiences with kidney disease?
Okay, yeah. So it was 1993, and I started putting on water weight like crazy. I went from 125 pounds to 175 pounds, just this massive, massive edema. And went to local kidney doctors where I was at and had a pretty bad experience. So my family was like, let's go to the best. So we went to the big name hospital in New York City. And I thought, okay, I'm here. I'm with these world-class experts. I'm going to, get the help I need. And I went there for, about a year and a half, and I did not have a good experience. So, they told me dialysis was going to happen. And at that point, I really had nothing to lose. So, people had been telling me, try something in alternative medicine. I wasn't going to jump into it right away, especially when you have something like FSGS. Most alternative practitioners have never even heard of FSGS. So, why would I go to them if they don't really understand the condition I'm dealing with? But, once I had been to, really the best that nephrology had to offer, and I was kind of adrift, I said, well, might as well give it a try, see what happens. And so mixed bag, some things were really good, some things not so good, but, I was able to learn a lot of new things. And, definitely it was something I wish I had done earlier, to be honest with you.
Okay. Can you update us on what your current situation with your kidneys are? I understand at one point you had a transplant.
I did. I was 32. On average, they last 10 years. So I knew I would probably outlive the kidney and return to dialysis, which I did. And I'm on hemodialysis now. I do it at home. With the time before my transplant and after, I've been on dialysis a total of 18 years.
Okay. You're a doctor of naturopathic medicine. Can you please explain what that is and what you generally do in your practice for kidney patients?
So I approach kidney disease from many different angles. because it is so persistent for most people. So it's a combination of some botanical medicines, some dietary changes, and some lifestyle changes. And among the lifestyle changes, addressing insomnia is a big one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I consult with you and still see my nephrologist? I'm a post-transplant patient, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I want people to have a relationship with a nephrologist. Sometimes people want to do everything 100% naturally. And doing telemedicine, I can't be the primary care person. I'm an adjunct. And Western medicine is really good in a crisis. When you need to go to the emergency room, you want to have a local doctor who knows you and understands you. So, it's important to have your nephrologist with your care team. And, so really I can give that adjunct support. I was actually, I was taking some natural supplements, including coenzyme Q10 as a dialysis patient. It was really giving me energy and helping me quite a bit. And I just wasn't saying anything to my nephrologist. Sometimes they're easy to talk to, sometimes not. So I decided at one point, all right, I'm just going to spill the beans and tell him, what I'm taking. So I did. And, he said, yeah, coenzyme Q10, that's a good thing. Yeah, keep that up. So I thought he would be angry at me for doing this. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a surprise. And then I thought, well, okay, this is good. Why don't you tell all of the other patients? And then you didn't want to talk about it so much. So, now I understand the pressures on MDs. It's not so easy for them to, give advice on natural medicine. And you see things like Dr. Oz, Dr. Andrew Weil, the MDs who do branch out into natural medicine. A lot of times the other doctors don't look on that so favorably. So, so it's not always so easy for them to do that.
Okay. If I were to consult with you or someone in your profession, would I be asked to stop all the medication that I'm taking?
Definitely not. Your body is used to it. So we don't want to make abrupt changes. So hopefully we bring on the natural supplements and the lifestyle changes and hopefully make it so you need less of it. So as your labs improve, as your blood pressure improves, you can go to the prescribing doctor and say, things are better. Maybe I could try a lesser dose. And, kind of do it in a more gradual way. Most people come to me because they want to take fewer, medications, but it's usually a process. It's not something you want to just jump into and stop everything.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about naturopathy. Are naturopaths actual doctors?
Yes, we get 4 years of medical school, and our first 2 years are very, similar to what an MD would get. But we also get training in botanical medicine. And we are the only profession that has both pharmacology and botanical medicine. And we understand the interactions, which I think that is just so important for kidney patients. The licensing for naturopathy varies state by state. Currently, I'm in New York State, and we do not have licensure, but I hold my Connecticut license still.
Okay, we have a Facebook user that's asking about how you address insomnia. So I'm going to tell them I'm going to start asking her those questions in 2 questions. Please be patient. Mm-hmm. Okay. If natural medicines work, why doesn't my doctor seem to know about it?
Well, they might. I always make citations from peer-reviewed medical journals that are on the NIH website. So I don't know why doctors don't always read these things, but, I hunt and peck through these studies, finding things that shed light on the effects of botanical medicine on the kidneys. And most pharmaceuticals actually come from a plant in some way. So, it's processed, the synthetic form's a little bit different, but most of these things start out with a natural substance, including anti-rejection drugs. The anti-rejection drugs for transplants actually originally came from mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms. Yeah, so cyclosporin, the big breakthrough actually came from the cordyceps mushroom, and the cordyceps mushroom has been used for kidney disease in China for a very long time. Mycophenolate, Celcept. Anytime you see MYCO, that means mushroom. Mycology is the study of mushrooms. So, so these are plant derived, they're mushroom derived. So, when you generally take the whole plant, you get that active component and several cofactors, and you get a much lesser dose of the active component. When they synthesize these things in the laboratory, they take what they think is the active component of the plant and put it in concentrations, often hundreds of times of what would occur in nature. And so those substances are the ones that tend to give you more side effects. So, the whole plant is generally safer for the most part, although you have to be very discriminating about which plants you're using. So, and then MDs, they have approved protocols of what they're allowed to prescribe, and, pressures from insurance companies. I've given lectures for continuing education for renal professionals, and I always have to give a disclaimer. This is not part of approved protocols. You're allowed to say to the patient, I'm just telling you what they might find on their own. So.
Okay. Let's talk about kidneys and insomnia. How did you first become aware of the connection between insomnia and kidney disease?
Well, actually, it was 1996, and I had just left the big name hospital in New York, and people told me, you got to check out this doctor. He's really great. He was a doctor of traditional Oriental medicine. He did a Japanese style of acupuncture and herbs. And I said, okay, why not? So I went there, and I told him my situation, what was going on with my kidneys. And he said to me, you've had insomnia since early childhood. And I'm like, whoa, how did he know that? I had not mentioned anything about sleep. So how he, understood that was really very striking to me. I'm like, okay, this is a guy I've got a lot to learn from. So I've been spending the next 25 plus years really trying to understand that connection between insomnia and kidney trouble. And in traditional Chinese medicine, these things always go together. So they've been aware of this connection for a long time. Western medicine, we're starting to understand it a little bit more.
Okay. Please talk to us about the different forms insomnia takes: onset insomnia, maintenance insomnia, and non-refreshing sleep.
Okay, so onset insomnia, it's hard to fall asleep. Maintenance insomnia, it's hard to stay asleep. These are people who wake easily. And then non-refreshing sleep. You may sleep 8 hours, but if you're not reaching those deeper levels of sleep, your body really is not refreshed. So among kidney patients, I find onset insomnia the most common. Although for a variety of reasons, maintenance insomnia could be possible too, especially if they're getting up to urinate quite a bit.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What are some of the reasons that kidney patients have insomnia? What types of things can we look at as causative?
Well, one of them is low melatonin levels. And melatonin is the sleep hormone. We actually have melatonin receptors on our kidneys. Our kidneys are built to respond to the sleep hormone. And kidney patients often have low levels. Melatonin tends to peak around age 18 or 20, and then it goes down every decade of life. So as we get older, we have less melatonin. So that's a factor. But also if you have something like nephrotic syndrome, if you have protein in the urine, melatonin is what we call a peptide hormone. So it's made from albumin, and albumin is the protein that leaks out in the urine. So your body might not have the materials to make optimal levels of melatonin. So that's one thing. Also high cortisol. Cortisol is the antagonist of melatonin. We get a surge of melatonin at night that says go to sleep, and we get a surge of cortisol in the morning that says wake up. Cortisol is the only hormone that increases with age. So as melatonin goes down and cortisol goes up, it's hard to get that full 8 hours of sleep. Cortisol is also the stress hormone. When you're under a lot of stress, which most kidney patients would be, your cortisol levels are really high. And it's the hormone that makes us put on weight around our midsection. You know, everybody hits age 40, you can tell, you know, we don't have the body proportions we had as teenagers. You know, we put on weight in the midsection, so you can tell that cortisol is rising. Another reason is hypertension. So our blood pressure goes up as part of our fight or flight response. You know, you see something dangerous, you have to respond quickly, your blood pressure goes up. That's appropriate. It helps our survival. But when you're in fight or flight mode, you can't sleep. So, you know, rest and relax is just, you know, just not possible if your blood pressure is just out of control. Also, inflammation can cause insomnia. You know, certain inflammatory compounds, especially ones associated with nephrotic syndrome, may directly cause, you know, some insomnia issues. Things like interleukin-6, you know, cause inflammation. Our medications as kidney patients, beta blockers. These are the blood pressure medicines that end in olol, atenolol, labetalol. They directly inhibit melatonin. So if you're on a beta blocker, your melatonin levels are definitely low. Prednisone is another one. ACE inhibitors, statins, antidepressants, decongestants. So you never want to abruptly stop a medication, especially a beta blocker, because you can get some of that rebound hypertension. But, you know, it's something we would want to work with to, you know, hopefully control your blood pressure in other ways. And then, as I mentioned, nocturia, getting up in the middle of the night to urinate. If you have nephrotic syndrome, you have this extra fluid in your extracellular space. You've got all this swelling, this fluid that's not where it's supposed to be. And then when you're lying flat at night, your lymph system is dealing with that extra fluid, and, you know, it gets back into your circulation, and you end up needing to urinate at night. So that can be a problem. You know, also when you're in a late stage of kidney disease, when your creatinine is high, then the kidneys tend to lose the ability to concentrate urine, and you get this very frequent urination when creatinine is high. Another one is low vitamin D, and this was actually just something, a 2017 study. Low serum vitamin D was associated with insomnia. Anemia, which is another big thing for kidney patients, having non-iron deficient anemia, which is, you know, that lack of erythropoietin, that epogen that we always have to get injected as dialysis patients. You know, anemia can cause insomnia. Anemia is also associated with restless leg syndrome, which is another thing. If you have, you know, you definitely want to address. Not getting enough exercise. You know, when you're fatigued, you really don't feel like doing it, but, you know, it's good to kind of, even if it's just mild, just get a little exercise. And another thing is anxiety, you know, which kidney patients do tend to have. And it's interesting to note, you know, we talk about traditional Chinese medicine, you know, that's been a big influence with me. Traditional Chinese medicine takes the idea that your emotions affect your physical body, you know, a step further. You know, we see this connection, you know, blood pressure and emotional stress. In traditional Chinese medicine, they relate each organ system of the body to a particular emotion, and they say fear and anxiety are bad for your kidneys. You know, for most people, there are few things more anxiety provoking than the thought of being on dialysis. So, you know, for a lot of patients, you know, addressing anxiety, you know, when you're feeling anxious, you just don't, you know, it's hard to go to sleep.
Okay. What are some of the over-the-counter remedies for insomnia, and how do they impact kidney patients?
Okay, well, melatonin is you know, really a good place to start. And you know, most kidney patients have suboptimal levels of melatonin, so this would be definitely a good thing to do. And melatonin is one of the few things that directly improves kidney function. So, you know, we have melatonin receptors on the kidneys, and, you know, I can actually have some study citations about this. And melatonin actually helps with proteinuria. It, you know, may strengthen the cell-to-cell junctions in the kidney membrane, making it less permeable and less likely to leak protein. So melatonin has a lot of benefits for a kidney patient. And, you know, particularly it's really good for our bones, our bone density as well. And it's, you know, something that can help with depression. Yeah, it actually has a lot of anti-cancer properties. It's good for blood pressure. It's good for the heart. It's, helps lessen the side effect of certain medications, including calcineurin inhibitors. It's really good for lessening the side effects of, transplant medications. And yeah, so definitely a lot of benefits to melatonin. Sleep is just, so fundamental in so many ways.
Okay. You also mentioned when we discussed this diabetics and melatonin.
Yeah, many different parameters of diabetes, inflammatory markers are improved with melatonin. And melatonin's really good for blood pressure. Part of when we're unwinding, getting ready to go to sleep, is that our blood pressure is supposed to fall. So melatonin's really important for that.
Okay. Are there some natural sources of melatonin?
Yeah, cherries and cherry juice is good, and also pistachios. A lot of times when I'm working with infants, I don't want to, jump into giving them a hormone, but I tell the parents, give them cherry juice every other night. And so, just giving that really low dose that can just kind of ease them into, better kidney health.
Okay. I've heard recently warnings about long-term use of melatonin. Can you discuss that, please?
Sure. As a kidney patient, if it's going to help my kidneys live longer, I'm okay being dependent on melatonin or taking it long term. I've been taking it myself for 20 years, and as a dialysis patient running my own business, if I didn't sleep well at night, I certainly couldn't do all that I do in the daytime. So it's really, if there's any one supplement that's allowed me to have this this life that I have, being very, very busy working as as a dialysis patient, I'd have to say melatonin is really key. And it really is just good on so many levels that, I think that the advantages of taking it would outweigh. I'm not really concerned about being dependent on it. I've had times where I skip it and I'm fine, and I just haven't really found a downside to it. You can overdo it. You can, if you're groggy in the morning after sleeping good solid 8 hours, what they call the melatonin hangover, you might want to go to a lower dose. A really high dose of melatonin could actually give you some restless leg syndrome. So that would be another sign that you'd want to back off a little bit. And so a lot of times with patients, I titrate the dose. We see what's going to work for them. Usually 3 milligrams is a starting point, and then we work our way up. And just to give you a frame of reference, people who take melatonin for its anti-cancer properties, people actively fighting breast cancer, testicular cancer, they'll use 30 to 50. They, knock themselves out. And, if it's fighting your cancer, I think it's definitely worth it.
Okay. You mentioned something else in our private conversations, GABA, capital GABA. Can you talk to us about that a little bit, please?
Yeah, GABA is another sleep aid, maybe one that people have not heard of as much, but it really does give a deeper and more restful sleep. And it actually has a protective effect on the kidneys. So there is a study, and I can give you the citations, but it's gamma aminobutyric acid, and in an animal study, it helped protect the lab animals from kidney failure. So,
okay.
Yeah, so definitely had a good positive effect on the kidneys.
You also mentioned taurine, TAURINE. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, taurine is calming to the heart, and this is a really good amino acid. It's also good anti-inflammatory. They found it was very helpful for lupus nephritis in particular. This is something that they add to energy drinks, which is kind of curious. Those drinks you get, like the give you that burst of energy when you're tired. Often they're giving you a big shot of caffeine, and that could cause heart palpitations in some people. So that taurine is actually there to offset the high dose of caffeine. Gives you a little calming, so you don't get any heart palpitations from it. So yeah, taurine has a lot of benefits to it. It's very calming, good for blood pressure. So yeah, so that can be really helpful. That's actually something that I take as part of my nighttime routine. L-theanine is also another good amino acid. It's very calming. L-theanine is found naturally in green tea. I know some patients are afraid of green tea because it has caffeine in it. The amount of caffeine is very small, though. So, I would take it early in the day, but I would take theanine by itself at night. So theanine is very calming. And, Buddhist monks, they drink like 9 cups of green tea a day. They don't get jittery because, the caffeine is offset by the L-theanine that naturally occurs in green tea.
Okay. Glycine, Glycine, something to do with yellow?
Yeah. So glycine is very calming, and it helps lower body temperature, which is important because, when you're going to sleep, our body temperature is supposed to go down. It's curious that the number one food source of glycine is actually gelatin. And you might have noticed that in hospitals, they serve Jell-O quite a bit. So, it's one of those things that kind of helps make the patients a little bit more mellow. But, glycine it's good for anxiety. It's something that naturopathic doctors use for anxiety. I know my first week of doing home hemodialysis without the nurse present, I did gelatin every night. So, it really helped me calm my nerves and get through everything. So that was really, really helpful for me at that point in my life. So, and then magnesium is another big one. Most Americans don't get enough magnesium. A lot of this is the way we do our agriculture. Traditional farming, they would rest the soil, rotate, put minerals back in. Now, big agriculture, they farm the same plot of land, same crop year after year. If you don't put minerals in the soil, the foods don't have the minerals. So, so it's really important to have optimal levels of magnesium. Magnesium helps us relax. It's good for muscle relaxation. It's they call it the chill pill. So if you're on calcineurin inhibitors for a transplant or being treated with them for an autoimmune condition, these are medications that lower your magnesium levels. So it would be important. Also, if you're a coffee drinker, coffee depletes the body of magnesium. So so magnesium is good for your blood pressure. It's good for blood sugar. And there also is a study that they did that they found that magnesium reduced vascular calcification. So all of us get this buildup on the lining of the blood vessel walls that makes the blood vessels more stiff and the space inside them more narrow. And kidney patients tend to have an acceleration of this process. And they actually did a study, and this was on dialysis patients. So these are people who you would think have to be really careful about not overloading with minerals. And they found that in these dialysis patients, it helped prevent this vascular calcification. And as I'm sure you know, the number one problem for kidney patients is actually not kidney failure directly, but that secondary cardiovascular disease. So this is something that we can do to to really help.
Okay, take a breath for a minute, Doc. Our friend Sonny Cohen is asking, can you please spell these substances more slowly? Sonny, I'm going to copy and paste my notes, put them in the comments. You'll have all the correct spellings as soon as the broadcast is over. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you.
Okay.
Talk to us a little bit about valerian.
Okay, yeah, valerian is another one that helps people relax and unwind. So it has a long history of use for helping people sleep. For kidney patients, valerian may be helpful, especially if you have restless leg syndrome. So it can help give some symptomatic relief. If you do have restless leg syndrome, it is associated with higher rates of cardiovascular disease and anemia that can be a problem. So it's important to address the underlying condition, but valerian can give some symptomatic relief for restless leg, which is one of those things that when it happens, it's really terrible and really keeps you up.
Okay, but before we get into the next one, cannabis, I want to remind my friends that are on the kidney transplant list that there are some kidney transplant centers that just assume you weren't involved with cannabis, marijuana, chewables, things of that nature. So you want to check with your transplant center before you engage in the use of any cannabis. Doc, tell us a little bit about cannabis and sleep.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely agree. The marijuana plant does contain calcineurin, and anti-rejection drugs are generally calcineurin inhibitors. So every time I'm at a medical conference and someone's talking about medical marijuana, I ask which specific, CBD oil, hemp proteins, which products specifically contain calcineurin, and nobody's given me a straight answer. So, so for transplant patients, I would say, avoid the cannabis. For other kidney patients, it might be helpful. They do make some products of cannabis, especially the ones without THC, which are the only ones I would use. I don't want to have any THC, but and I do have people with chronic pain who find this really helpful. Pain can definitely keep you up at night. So so if it's helpful to patients, that's fine as long as they're not transplant patients. They actually had a study, the American Medical Journal in 2018, looking at the effects of cannabis and the kidneys, and they really found there was no effect on filtration. So that was kind of reassuring.
Okay, and I want to remind all of my friends out there, before you take any supplemental medicine, please consult with your PCP, your nephrologist, your doctor, because he may have or she may have reasons why they don't want you to take supplements. So, Doc, you don't have any problem with that, correct?
Well, most MDs don't have training in botanical medicine. So if they say don't take a substance, I would ask them why. Can they give a specific reason why? So, I'm always careful to look at interactions with patients with herbs and the medications they're taking, and I always give citations why I think the study says that this would be a good choice for you. So so I just put that information out there, and so we see how it goes. Some nephrologists are more open than others.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about blue light therapy for a minute. Can you describe your experience with that?
Okay, well, after I had my kidney transplant, I was on a lot of medications, and including a beta blocker, and the insomnia was really bad. 5 a.m. I'm still wide awake, and so my family said, "Well, why don't you go to the sleep clinic at the local hospital?" And I was pretty resistant. I'm already on a lot of medications. I don't want to take any more medications. I don't know about interactions or whatever. They said, "Just go, just see what they say." So all right, so I went, and I told the sleep doctor my situation, and he said, "I want you to get up at 7 every morning and look towards the sun." I'm like, okay. And it was July, so that was easy to do. And you get that full spectrum light, gets to the back of your eye, which signals to the brain and sets your body's internal time clock, your circadian rhythm. So your body says daytime, I'm up. So by the time nighttime falls, your body knows, okay, nighttime, this is time for bed. So a lot of kidney patients especially are on a late sleep cycle. They go to bed late, and they wake up late. So just getting on an early schedule and doing it consistently every morning was really important. And then when autumn came on, and I was in Connecticut, not a lot of sunlight, so he had me get a bright light box. And these are things that they've used in like Norway and Sweden for many decades, part of the world where it's dark for a good 6 months of the year and people get very depressed. So, so long history of use. And so I got this bright light box, and I just, have it, before breakfast every morning, good 20, 30 minutes. And that's been really good. The combination of doing some supplements and doing the bright light box, I found to be really helpful.
Okay. And you mentioned to me it has an added benefit of helping with SAD. What's that all about?
Seasonal affective disorder. So, when in the wintertime, people, their mood tends to go down, and, just not getting enough sunlight. So this is really good for, just kind of helping with those winter blues, or just, anytime you really need a lift, it helps the body make serotonin and as well as dopamine. Serotonin is the feel-good hormone. Dopamine is the hormone of motivation. So getting that sunlight really helps your brain make these feel-good hormones.
Okay. Have you found blue light blockers to be helpful?
I've tried them. My own experience, I didn't find it made a big difference. Other people swear by them, so I mean, it's worth a try for some people, but yeah, the idea is that if you block the blue light with these orange glasses, that, it helps your body make melatonin. I could just as easily, take a supplement of melatonin, but yeah, I didn't find the blue light blockers made a big difference for me personally.
Okay. There's always this debate that goes on about consuming dairy products and things like warm milk being helpful with insomnia, as opposed to being advised don't take so much calcium. And can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, all foods that have some protein in it are going to have some phosphorus in it. And milk is not really worse than other proteins. 3 ounces of beef have 217 milligrams of phosphorus, whereas a glass of milk has 113. A serving of salmon has 280. So as phosphorus content goes, milk itself is not really that bad. If you need phosphorus binders, you can take it with them. Some patients need more calcium, some need less calcium. So, it depends on your individual labs and where you're at that moment. But yeah, most people with European ancestry have enzymes for dairy. So, if your grandparents had milk and cheese and their grandparents had milk and cheese, you probably can digest it okay. So I think dairy really takes a bad rap, and dairy products do not drive up uric acid, whereas other proteins do. So, if somebody has gout, then, moving away from other animal proteins more towards dairy is probably a good thing for them.
Okay. One of the things that I know that you emphasize is that patients should go to bed early. Can you explain why this is important, and why should kidney patients care if they have a late sleep cycle?
Yeah, well, we have our natural surge of melatonin between 10 p.m. and 12 midnight, and it's good to work with that rhythm. So, if you're in bed before 10, you really do get a better quality and a more restorative sleep. So in traditional Chinese medicine, they say every hour before midnight is worth 2 after. So, we should all live like farmers, ideally.
Okay. Most patients say they're fine with 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, and I try to get more than that myself, and it's not always easy. But optimally, I think most of us would really do a lot better with 8 hours. In France, they sleep a lot more than we do, and their health status seems in so many ways better than us. So yeah, I think when people are allowed to sleep, or their body allows them to sleep, they have the time to do it. I think it really is better for their health to get that full 8 hours.
Okay. Do you recommend naps or daytime sleep for kidney patients?
It's interesting. When I worked with the sleep clinic, he really wanted me to not go right back to bed after I had that sunlight exposure. If I want to nap after 12 noon, fine. But he wanted me to be up in the morning and kind of make that a habit. So, having that habit, okay, this is when I'm awake, and the body will adapt to it.
Okay. You've told patients that if they don't fall asleep within 20 minutes to get up. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so the bedroom should be associated with sleep, and if you're just lying there, it's really an exercise in futility. Just trying to force your own consciousness out, and yeah, it's really uncomfortable, and a lot of patients, get that frustration, just lying there and it's not happening for them. So, it's good to just get up and distract yourself, read a book or something, just, something so that you're not forcing this upon yourself. Sleep should be just a natural thing that comes easy. So if it's not coming easy, don't force it. You can control when you wake up, but, you can't always be in control of when you fall asleep. So, just try to emphasize, getting up consistently at the same hour every day. And then just kind of at nighttime, trying to just let it happen.
Okay. Should kidney patients try to make up for lost sleep on the weekends, or is keeping to a routine more important?
I would say keeping to a routine is more important. People have this, okay, well, I missed this number of hours of sleep, so I'm going to, just sleep in on Sunday. And then it really sets a pattern that makes it harder the rest of the week to, stay consistent with that habit. So, when you, try to change things, on the weekend or when you're on vacation, it takes a lot of time to get back on track. So I would try to just keep with the routine every day.
Okay. You have mentioned that it's important to sleep in a darkened room. Many who give advice about sleep emphasize a lack of outside stimulation. Do you agree or disagree with this?
Yeah, that's something I kind of have ambivalent feelings about. Darkness really helps with our body's own melatonin, which can be good. On the other hand, a lot of patients find that, when their body just isn't ready, it just isn't ready. And, you can try all kinds of things. It doesn't really work. Sometimes having an outside distraction is actually good. I know a lot of people, they say, if I fall asleep on the couch, I feel better, the TV's on. Sometimes when you're lying there with your own thoughts racing, it's kind of frustrating. So even just having some background noise just kind of gives you that distraction. Sometimes that works better. I think there's no hard and fast rule. A lot of the advice on sleep that I find online, I think is written by people who've never really had insomnia. So, so I don't really find a darkened room or not darkened room, important for me. Other people are more sensitive to their surroundings, certainly. So, yes, I would say no hard and fast rule there.
Okay. What are some of the hormonal changes that can affect sleep? I know you talked to us a little bit about cortisol. Can you review with us hormonal changes that affect sleep?
Okay, yeah. So, definitely menopause is one of them. So a lot of, that's a whole nother topic onto itself. But a lot of people, women will find that, when they're going through that change of life, that, things are, more difficult for them. Cortisol, as I mentioned, is another one. That this is a hormone that makes it difficult to stay asleep, especially. Sometimes people will get cortisol spikes in the middle of the night. And this is, the stress hormone. So when people are under periods of stress, they may find, especially, they get this maintenance insomnia, waking up every couple of hours. And some people speculate that this nighttime vigilance may have helped us survive as a species. You hear a baby crying in the middle of the night, something dangerous in the middle of the night. Being a light sleeper may have been an advantage, but, right now for us kidney patients, it's definitely getting in the way. So, being able to control our cortisol levels is really important. And that's a big topic unto itself, how to lessen our stress levels. And some botanicals like, ginger tea might help lower cortisols.
Okay.
And another is the hormone dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone of enthusiasm, makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. So it's good in some ways. It's one of those feel good hormones. It's also the hormone associated with addictions, and which could be anything. Addictions, excitement. People who are excitement junkie use high dopamine, and when your dopamine is high, it's hard to go to sleep. And if you've been working, all day, and then you come home at night and you can watch your favorite TV show. You can play some video games. You do things that feel good, once the rest of the family is asleep and they have a little time to yourself. And if your dopamine is too high, it's hard to go to sleep. So, having a lot of electronic stimulations, being on your computer too much, that can overstimulate your brain. So, too much dopamine can be the enemy of sleep.
Okay. When we're talking about electronics, that includes your smartphone too, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Because there are a few of us that are on a smartphone all the time.
Yeah, so it's good to have a little downtime away from it, because it really gets your nervous system wound up.
Okay, you talked to us about cortisol level. How do we control our cortisol level? How do we manage stress? Can a therapist help? Suggestions for daytime stress?
Okay, well, yeah, anxiety is really common in kidney patients. So some of the supplements I've already mentioned, taurine and glycine, can be helpful. Another herb that's really good, and one that many kidney patients haven't heard of, is one called Salvia mycorrhiza. This is a really common herb in China. Most people in the West haven't heard of it, but it's good for anxiety, but it also helps support kidney function. And yeah, I can give studies with that. This is one of the few herbs that's actually safe post-transplant. And they found that taking Salvia mycorrhiza actually helps improve microcirculation to the new organ. So yeah, lots of benefits to this herb. Okay, and yeah, so feelings of safety and security are important. Dealing with our cortisol. We get bombarded with horrific images in the media all the time. One of the best things you can do for your health is just turn off the news. It's always something upsetting, something you can't do anything about. So, try to just focus on the people around you. Focus on my sphere of influence, no matter how small it is. The big things in that I can't do anything about, try not to focus on. So, yeah, so just taking a break from the news is always a good thing for our health. And yeah, we can, one of the things I found is really good is just laughter. Laughter breaks up the internal tension of anxiety. And in tradition, I worked with this acupuncturist from mainland China, and he always wanted me to watch comedy. His rule was 3 belly laughs every day. He was very stern about that. So they actually did a study on dialysis patients, looking at what personality factors affect the dialysis experience. And they found the best predictor of long-term survival on dialysis was actually scoring high on sense of humor. So, definitely, try to just, keep things light as much as you can. That's always good. I try to watch, just funny movies and things when I'm on dialysis. And it's interesting. People who are religious, tend to be healthier than those with a more nihilistic worldview. Having a sense that the universe is benefic, you're safe, you're being looked after. If you grew up in a religious household, you said prayers before bed, and that really helps cultivate that feeling of security. So, and yeah, and then for other people, especially if you have extreme cases, things like PTSD, definitely you would want to seek out professional help.
Okay. If patients know that their medications are the problem, how do you help them?
Okay, well, we don't want to abruptly stop anything, but we want to lessen the need for it. So sometimes natural medicine can help with blood pressure. It can help with cholesterol. It can help with some of these issues. So, eventually we make it so that you can step down from some of these medications. Bright light therapy causes your body to make more serotonin. And a lot of these prescription medications that people take, like the SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, it makes your body break down serotonin more slowly, the feel-good hormone, which can help, with anxiety and depression, but it doesn't help your body make more of it, whereas the bright light therapy helps your body make more serotonin. So that's good. And I think it's, we think about what's in the natural environment that should be there that's missing. Most of us don't really get a lot of sunlight. Most of us are indoors most of the time. And then prednisone keeps people up quite a bit. So natural anti-inflammatories can, reduce the need for prednisone, hopefully over time. And this is another one. You don't want to abruptly stop it. But, there are some things that, can make the nephrotic syndrome, that kidney inflammation, less over time. And so hopefully you'll be able to wean off the prednisone sooner rather than later.
Okay. Let's talk for a minute about kidney patients and fatigue. How can exercise help with this issue?
Yeah, so they found that 30 minutes of walking every day is actually really good for your kidneys. So keeping it mild but consistent. And, we're all at a different fitness level. So, if you can just start with 15 minutes and just, kind of work your way up from there. But we don't want to do a lot of exercise or exercise to the point of exhaustion. Our body's pretty tired already. So, keeping it, short and simple. Creatinine is a breakdown product from our muscle tissue. And so people ask me, can I over exercise to the point where it would hurt my kidneys? That's actually pretty rare. Condition rhabdomyolysis, where you break down the muscle tissue to an extreme. That's only really in elite athletes. Most of us would never have a problem with that. I've been in practice for 12 years and I've had 3 cases of that. So, so it's kind of unusual to, exercise to that point.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about sleep apnea. How is that handled in your practice?
Well, for many patients, weight loss is good. And that's also good for our kidneys, being closer to our ideal body mass index, the ideal weight for our height is definitely good. There's a whole obesity related kidney issues. So that can be good. So for a lot of patients, weight loss does improve sleep apnea. But when there's a structural issue, sometimes, the mask is the best option, or other things like, polyps, may obstruct. So there may be some physical obstruction that, maybe natural medicine wouldn't be the best thing to address it with.
Okay. We know that weight loss is helpful for kidneys. Is there any evidence that weight loss helps insomnia?
Well, when we're overweight, we tend to have high levels of an inflammatory marker called interleukin-6. And interleukin-6 is definitely associated with insomnia. So weight loss can be helpful in many ways. I'm not a big fan of fasting. When people fast, they actually have a hard time falling asleep. And also you get into this muscle wasting state that's not really so healthy. So, so I'm not a fan of going to an extreme with a diet. But yeah, gradual weight loss, definitely is a good thing for most kidney patients.
Currently, I see marketed quite a bit sleep aids. Have you encountered sleep aids in your work with kidney patients? Things like apps that make relaxing sounds, or people reading stories to you, or other type of things in your practice? If you have, what is your opinion?
Well, a lot of those work on an individual basis. Some people having a little background noise is good for them, other people not so much. So it would really depend. I have found that Brain Sync, BrainSync, they have a lot of these self-hypnosis programs. You listen with earphones, and they have programs for sleep that they have this certain rhythm that helps induce delta waves in your brain, which is really good for slow wave sleep, for really getting into those deep levels of sleep. So that's one that I found helpful. I've tried some other ones and, maybe not so much success, but it's very individual what's going to work for one person or another.
Okay, a little spontaneous question here, something that an audience member asked, Doctor. What is the approach that you take when someone with kidney disease and prolonged insomnia comes into your office?
Okay, well, usually my first line of defense is, starting with melatonin. So, I figure most of them are low in melatonin. And, depending on their situation, I may try some of these other ones that we mentioned tonight, the taurine, the glycine, depends on what stage they're at. I also look at some of the other, health issues they're dealing with. So most of the people who come to me, maybe kidney disease isn't the only thing they're dealing with. Maybe they have multiple health issues. And so, I can see, what's going to work for them and, in their particular situation. But yeah, I work on sleep hygiene, trying to get them on an earlier schedule and on a consistent schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, if they have a history of depression, I definitely want them to use a bright light box. Post-transplant, actually, glycine is really good for patients post-transplant. They found that I actually have a study citation where it actually helped prevent organ transplant rejection. So, so that would be something I would go with, if they had a transplant. If they have bipolar disorder, GABA is good for that. So, just trying to see what other things they're dealing with to see which ones are really going to be most targeted to their situation.
Okay. Do you have any concluding remarks concerning insomnia and kidney disease? Is there anything I forgot to ask about or anything else you would like to discuss tonight?
Okay, I think we covered things pretty well. This is something that I've been dealing with really my whole life, and as long as I can remember. And it's a long struggle. And if one thing's not working for you, there's always something else to be tried. So I tell patients really, don't give up. We can work with it. We can find a solution. Just a lot of times it's like it's like peeling an onion. Maybe the anemia was a problem and you solve the anemia, but you're still not sleeping. And, so maybe you have to address something else. So, it's often this multifactorial situation. And, so it really does take a lot of digging and just, keep trying.
Okay. Is there a particular form of GABA that you recommend?
Well, I have my dispensary and specific brands. Actually, I don't have a brand that's particularly in mind, but I always encourage patients to go. If they work with me, they can go to my dispensary or go to a local health food store, but avoid discount places when you buy supplements. A lot of times you would think truth in labeling laws that it is exactly what it says it is, but they take it to the lab and maybe it's more rice powder or other fillers. So, always just try to get good high-end companies. You really get what you pay for generally with supplements.
Okay. I thank you so much for taking time to speak with us tonight and to educate us about kidneys and insomnia. What a great discussion, really wide variety of topics. And I really appreciate your patience with all my questions. Thank you so much, Doctor, for taking time to speak with us.
Okay, thank you. I'm really great to be here. Thank you.
Okay. You take care, Doc. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Okay, now if we can get everything to work here.
Okay.